After her mom, who was a secret trillionaire, died, her husband divorced her to marry her best friend. She was left with nothing but grief and betrayal. What she discovered in her mother's safety deposit box 3 months later would make them all pay in ways they never imagined. What happened next will make you question everything you think you know about loyalty, love, family secrets, and the price of underestimating a grieving daughter. Viewers, before we dive into this incredible story, do me a favor. If you love stories about justice, revenge, and unexpected plot twists, hit that subscribe button right now. Seriously, you don't want to miss what happens next. Drop a like on this video. It actually helps more than you think. And comment below telling me where you're watching from. Are you in Lagos, New York, London? I want to know. Now let's get into this story because it's about to get intense. The rain hammered against the windows of Grace Memorial Hospital, each drop a reminder of the storm that had settled over Maya Richardson's life. She sat in the sterile waiting room, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had gone pale. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in a sickly white glow. Doctors moved past in hurried silence. Somewhere down the hall, a machine beeped in steady, clinical rhythm. Her mother, Naomi Richardson, lay 2 doors down, breathing through a ventilator. The cancer had come fast, vicious, and without mercy. 3 months from diagnosis to this moment. 3 months of watching the strongest woman she'd ever known fade into something frail and unfamiliar. Maya's phone buzzed in her lap. She glanced at the screen. Her husband, Marcus. The text read, "Still at the hospital? I'm heading out with some friends. Don't wait up." She stared at the words, her throat tightening. No, how is she? No, do you need me? Just a casual dismissal, as if her mother wasn't dying 20 feet away. She didn't reply. She turned the phone face down and let the silence settle back over her. Across from her sat Shanice, her best friend since college. Shanice had shown up an hour ago with coffee and a box of tissues, her face full of concern. She reached over now and squeezed Maya's hand. "She's strong, Maya. Your mom's a fighter." Maya nodded, unable to speak. She wanted to believe it. But the doctors had been clear. Hours, maybe a day at most. A nurse appeared at the door, her expression soft but resigned. "Mrs. Richardson, you can go in now." Maya stood, her legs unsteady. Shanice rose with her, but Maya shook her head gently. "I need to do this alone." Shanice nodded, understanding. "I'll be right here." Maya walked down the hall, each step heavier than the last. When she pushed open the door, the beeping grew louder. Her mother lay beneath white sheets, tubes running from her arms, her chest rising and falling in shallow, mechanical breaths. Maya pulled a chair close and took her mother's hand. It was cold, too cold. "Mama," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I'm here." Naomi's eyes fluttered open, just barely. Her lips moved, struggling to form words around the breathing tube. Maya leaned closer. "Safety deposit box." Her mother whispered, the words barely audible. "First National. Box 447. Key is in my jewelry box. Top drawer. Hidden compartment." Maya's brow furrowed. "Mama, don't worry about that now. Just rest." Naomi's grip tightened, surprising in its sudden strength. "Promise me. You go. You open it. Don't tell anyone. Not Marcus, not Shanice, no one." The urgency in her mother's voice sent a chill down Maya's spine. "I promise, Mama, I promise." Naomi's eyes softened. A faint smile touched her lips. "My beautiful girl. You're stronger than you know, remember that. When the storm comes, you stand. Mama, please. I love you, baby." Her voice faded, the words dissolving into breath. The machines began to scream. Doctors and nurses rushed in, moving Maya aside. She stood frozen against the wall as they worked, their voices clipped and urgent. But she already knew. She could feel it. The way you feel a door closing in an empty house. At 11:47 p.m., Naomi Richardson, age 58, was pronounced dead. Maya stood in the rain outside the hospital, staring at nothing. Shanice wrapped an arm around her shoulders, guiding her toward the car. The world felt muted, distant, like she was watching her own life through glass. When they arrived at Maya's apartment, Marcus was there, sprawled on the couch with a beer in hand, basketball highlights playing on the TV. He glanced up. "Oh, she's gone?" Maya nodded, unable to speak. He took a sip of his beer. That's rough. Sorry, babe. That was it. No hug, no words of comfort, just a casual acknowledgement before his eyes drifted back to the screen. Shanice shot him a look of pure disgust, but said nothing. She guided Maya to the bedroom, helped her out of her coat, and sat with her on the edge of the bed. You want me to stay? Shanice asked softly. Maya shook her head. I just need to sleep. Shanice hesitated, then pulled her into a tight hug. Call me if you need anything. I mean it. Maya. Anything. When Shanice left, Maya lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling. The apartment was silent except for the muffled sound of the TV in the living room. She replayed her mother's last words over and over. Safety deposit box. Don't tell anyone. What could possibly be in there? The funeral was held on a gray Saturday morning at Evergreen Baptist Church, the same church where her mother had sung in the choir for 30 years. The pews were filled with faces Maya barely recognized, distant relatives, old coworkers, neighbors who hadn't spoken to her mother in years but showed up anyway, drawn by the gravity of death. Maya sat in the front row, dressed in black, her face a mask of composure. Marcus sat beside her, checking his phone intermittently. On her other side, Shanice dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, her hand resting gently on Maya's arm. The pastor spoke about Naomi's kindness, her devotion to her daughter, her quiet grace. Maya heard the words, but didn't absorb them. She felt hollowed out, like something essential had been scraped away. After the service, people approached with condolences, their voices blending into a low hum of sympathy. She was a wonderful woman. She's in a better place now. If you need anything, just let us know. Maya nodded and thanked them, the responses automatic. As the crowd thinned, Marcus leaned close. I'm gonna head out. Got a work thing I can't miss. She turned to him slowly. A work thing? Today? He shrugged. It's important, babe. I'll catch up with you later. He kissed her forehead, a quick, perfunctory gesture, and walked out before she could respond. Shanice watched him go, her jaw tight. That man is unbelievable. Maya said nothing. She was too tired to defend him, too tired to feel anything at all. That night, Maya sat alone in her childhood home, the small two-bedroom house in Southeast where she'd grown up. The furniture was worn but clean, the walls covered with old photos. Her mother's presence lingered in every corner, in the scent of lavender sachets, in the neatly folded quilts, in the gospel records stacked beside the turntable. She walked into her mother's bedroom, her steps slow and reverent. The jewelry box sat on the dresser, a simple wooden box with a carved rose on the lid. Maya opened it carefully. Inside were a few pieces, a pearl necklace, some costume earrings, a silver bracelet. She ran her fingers along the bottom, searching. Then she felt it, a slight give in the wood. She pressed down, and a small compartment popped open. Inside was a single brass key. Maya held it up to the light, her heart beating faster. The key was small, old, marked with the number 447. She closed her fingers around it and whispered into the silence, "Okay, Mama, I'm listening." The next morning, Maya stood outside First National Bank, the key heavy in her coat pocket. The building was old, red brick with tall columns, the kind of place that had survived decades of change by refusing to modernize. She walked inside, her footsteps echoing across the marble floor. A woman at the front desk looked up with a polite smile. "Good morning. How can I help you?" Maya pulled out the key. "I need to access a safety deposit box. Number 447. The woman's smile faltered slightly. She glanced at the key. Then at Maya. "May I see some identification?" Maya handed over her driver's license. The woman typed something into her computer, her expression shifting from polite to confused, then to something close to alarm. "One moment, please." She disappeared into a back office. Maya waited, unease creeping up her spine. A man in a gray suit emerged, his face serious. "Miss Richardson?" "Yes. I'm Gerald Whitmore, the branch manager. If you'll follow me, please." He led her down a narrow hallway, past rows of safety deposit boxes embedded in the walls. He stopped at box 447, inserted his key alongside hers, and turned them both. The door opened. Inside was a single thick manila envelope. Gerald stepped back, his expression carefully neutral. "Take all the time you need." When you're finished, just let me know. Maya pulled the envelope out, her hands trembling slightly. She carried it to a small private room, sat down, and opened it. Inside were documents, lots of them. Stock certificates, property deeds, bank statements, legal documents with names she didn't recognize, corporations she'd never heard of, and at the bottom, a handwritten letter on cream-colored stationery. Maya unfolded it slowly. "My dearest Maya," it began in her mother's elegant script. "If you're reading this, I'm gone, and it's time you knew the truth about who I really was." Maya's breath caught. She read on, her eyes widening with every line. "I was not the woman you thought I was. I was not just a cafeteria worker, a choir singer, a simple mother doing her best. I was all of those things, yes, but I was also more, much more. My real name was Naomi Ashford before I became Naomi Richardson. I came from wealth, Maya, old money, generations of it. But I walked away from that life when I was 23 because I refused to marry the man my family chose for me. They disowned me. I built a new life from nothing, and I wanted you to know the value of hard work, humility, and independence. I never told you because I didn't want that world to touch you. But now, everything I walked away from, everything I built in secret, it's yours." Maya's hands shook. She flipped through the documents again, her mind struggling to process what she was seeing. Her mother owned a portfolio of stocks worth hundreds of millions. She owned commercial real estate across 3 states. She had accounts in banks Maya had never heard of, holding sums that didn't seem real. At the bottom of the stack was a summary document, typed and notarized. Total estimated value of estate, $2.7 billion. Maya stared at the number until it blurred. She read it again, and again. Her mother, the woman who clipped coupons and shopped at thrift stores, who worked double shifts to pay for Maya's college textbooks, had been worth nearly $3 billion. And she'd never said a word. Maya sat in that small room for over an hour, reading and rereading every document, trying to make sense of it all. The letter explained that everything had been placed in irrevocable trusts, managed by a law firm in New York, hidden from public record to protect Maya. "When you're ready," her mother had written, "contact the firm. They'll help you understand everything. But Maya, be careful who you trust. Money changes people. It reveals who they really are. Protect yourself. Protect your heart. And remember, you are my daughter. You are stronger than you know." Maya folded the letter carefully and placed it back in the envelope. She walked out of the room, past the branch manager who watched her with wary respect, and out into the daylight. The world looked exactly the same, but everything had changed. She pulled out her phone and stared at Marcus's name in her contacts. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. "Don't tell anyone. Not Marcus." For the first time, Maya wondered if her mother had known something she didn't. She slipped the phone back into her pocket and walked toward her car, the envelope tucked under her arm. The storm her mother had warned her about was coming, and Maya was about to find out just how strong she really was. Maya drove home in a daze, the envelope sitting on the passenger seat like a bomb waiting to detonate. Every red light felt like an eternity. Every turn brought her closer to a decision she wasn't ready to make. When she pulled into the parking lot of her apartment building, she sat in the car for 10 minutes, staring at the steering wheel, trying to organize her thoughts. Her mother had been a secret billionaire. The woman who raised her in a modest home, who taught her to save every penny, who never wore jewelry that cost more than $20, had been sitting on a fortune that could change nations. And she'd hidden it all to teach Maya a lesson about character. Maya finally grabbed the envelope and walked inside. The apartment was empty. Marcus was gone again. No note, no text. She was used to it by now. She locked the bedroom door, spread the documents across the bed, and began making calls. The law firm her mother mentioned was called Ashford and Sterling, based in Manhattan. When Maya called, she was transferred 3 times before reaching a senior partner named Harold Ashford. "Miss Richardson," he said warmly, his voice smooth and practiced. "We've been expecting your call. First, let me offer my deepest condolences. Your mother was an extraordinary woman. You knew her?" "I did. She was my cousin, actually. When she left the family, most of them wrote her off. But I always admired her courage. She reached out to me years ago to set up the trusts for you. Everything is in order, I assure you." Maya's head spun. Cousin? Her mother had family she'd never mentioned? I don't understand any of this, she admitted. Of course not. It's a lot to process. Why don't you fly out here? We can sit down properly, go through everything, and make sure you're comfortable with the next steps. I'll arrange first-class tickets for you whenever you're ready. Maya hesitated. I need a few days. Take all the time you need. But Miss Richardson, one piece of advice. Don't tell anyone about this yet. Not until we've had a chance to talk and set up the proper protections. Wealth of this magnitude attracts attention, and not all of it is good. I understand. Good. Call me when you're ready to come to New York. We'll take care of everything. When she hung up, Maya sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the documents. She thought about Marcus, about how distant he'd been lately, about the way he looked at her sometimes, like she was an obligation rather than a partner. She thought about Shanice, her best friend, who had been there for her through everything. Her mother's warning echoed again. Be careful who you trust. But surely Marcus deserved to know. He was her husband. And Shanice? Well, Shanice was family in every way that mattered. Maya decided to wait, just a little longer, until she understood what she was dealing with. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur. Maya went through the motions, cleaning out her mother's house, sorting through belongings, donating clothes. She kept the jewelry box, the gospel records, and a quilt her grandmother had made. Marcus barely noticed her grief. He came and went at odd hours, always with vague explanations. Work thing, meeting a client, grabbing drinks with the guys. Shanice, on the other hand, checked in constantly. She brought food, helped with the house, sat with Maya during the long silences. You're going to get through this, Shanice said one evening as they boxed up kitchen items. I know it doesn't feel like it now, but you will. Maya nodded, grateful. I don't know what I'd do without you. Shanice smiled, but there was something in her eyes Maya couldn't quite read. Something fleeting, gone before Maya could identify it. That night, Maya came home to find Marcus on the couch, as usual. But this time, he wasn't watching TV. He was sitting forward, hands clasped, looking serious. We need to talk, he said. Maya's stomach dropped. Those 4 words never led anywhere good. She sat across from him, her body tense. What's going on? He took a deep breath, and for the first time in months, he looked uncomfortable. Maya, I don't know how to say this, so I'm just going to say it. I want a divorce. The room seemed to tilt. Maya stared at him, certain she'd misheard. What? I'm not happy, he continued, his voice flat, rehearsed. I haven't been for a while. We've grown apart. You've been so focused on your mom, and I need something different. My mom just died, Maya said slowly, her voice shaking. 2 weeks ago, Marcus, 2 weeks. I know the timing isn't great. Isn't great? She stood, anger flaring hot and sudden. My mother just died. And you're telling me you want a divorce? He stood too, defensive now. I didn't plan this, Maya, but I can't keep pretending. It's not fair to either of us. Who is she? His face went blank. What? There's someone else. I'm not stupid, Marcus. Who is she? There's no one else, he said, but his eyes darted away, just for a second. That second told her everything. Maya's voice went cold. Get out. Maya. Get out. He grabbed his jacket, his movements hurried, guilty. I'll come back for my stuff later. My lawyer will be in touch. And just like that, he was gone. Maya stood in the empty apartment, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She wanted to scream, to throw something, to break down, but instead, she sat on the floor, pulled her knees to her chest, and let the tears come in silence. Her phone buzzed. A text from Shanice. Hey girl, you okay? Haven't heard from you today. Want me to come over? Maya stared at the message for a long time. Then she typed back. Marcus just asked for a divorce. The response came immediately. What? I'm coming over right now. 20 minutes later, Shanice was at the door, pulling Maya into a fierce hug. I'm so sorry, Maya. I can't believe he would do this to you, especially now. They sat on the couch, and Maya told her everything. Well, almost everything. She left out the part about the envelope, about the billions sitting in trusts with her name on them. Shanice listened, her face a mask of sympathy and outrage. He's a coward. You deserve so much better. I don't even know what to do, Maya admitted. Everything's falling apart. You're going to survive this, Shanice said firmly. You're going to get through it, and you're going to come out stronger, I promise. As the days passed, Maya found a lawyer and filed a response to Marcus's divorce petition. The proceedings moved faster than she expected. Marcus wanted it done quickly, and Maya didn't have the energy to fight. She still hadn't told anyone about the money. Part of her wanted to throw it in Marcus's face, to watch him realize what he was walking away from. But her mother's voice kept her silent. Don't tell anyone. Be careful who you trust. 3 weeks after Marcus left, Maya was sitting in a coffee shop, reviewing documents from her lawyer, when she saw them. Marcus and Shanice. They were at a corner table, sitting close, his hand covering hers. Shanice laughed at something he said, her eyes bright, her smile wide. Maya's blood went cold. She watched as Marcus leaned in and kissed her. Not a friendly peck. A real kiss. The kind that spoke of intimacy, of history, of something that had been building for far longer than 2 weeks. Maya's hands trembled. She stood slowly, her legs unsteady, and walked toward their table. They didn't notice her until she was standing right there. Shanice looked up, her face draining of color. Maya? How long? Maya's voice was quiet, deadly calm. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Maya, listen. How long? She repeated, her eyes locked on Shanice. Shanice's mouth opened and closed. It just happened. After your mom died, we were both trying to be there for you, and we connected. After my mom died? Maya's voice rose. Or before? Silence. Marcus cleared his throat. It doesn't matter now. We're moving forward. Shanice and I, we're together. Maya stared at the woman she'd called her best friend for 10 years. The woman who had held her while she cried. The woman who had helped her pack up her mother's house while sleeping with her husband. You're supposed to be my best friend, Maya whispered. Shanice's eyes filled with tears. I am. I never meant for this to happen, Maya. But I love him. And he loves me. He's still married to me. Not for long, Marcus said coldly. The papers will be final next week. Maya felt something inside her snap. But instead of breaking, it hardened into something cold and sharp. She smiled. You're right. The papers will be final next week. And then you two can have each other. She turned and walked out of the coffee shop, her head high, refusing to let them see her fall apart. Outside, she leaned against the building, gasping for air. Her phone buzzed. An email from Harold Ashford. Miss Richardson, we really need to schedule that meeting. There are time-sensitive matters regarding your mother's estate that require your attention. Please call me at your earliest convenience. Maya stared at the email. Time-sensitive matters. Billions of dollars. A whole life her mother had hidden to protect her. And now, 2 people who had betrayed her in the worst possible way, who thought she was just a grieving widow with nothing. She pulled up Harold's number and dialed. He answered on the first ring. Miss Richardson. I'm ready, Maya said, her voice steady. I want to come to New York. I want to know everything. Excellent. I'll have tickets waiting for you tomorrow. First class. Direct flight. A car will pick you up at JFK. Thank you. Miss Richardson, one more thing. Once we finalize everything, your life is going to change dramatically. Are you prepared for that? Maya thought about Marcus, about Shanice, about the way they'd looked at her in that coffee shop, like she was pathetic, like she was nothing. Yes, she said quietly, I'm prepared. That night, Maya packed a small suitcase. She didn't tell anyone where she was going. She simply left a note for her landlord, paid 3 months' rent in advance, and locked the door behind her. The flight to New York was smooth, surreal. Maya sat in first class for the first time in her life, sipping champagne she didn't taste, staring out the window at clouds that looked like mountains. When she landed, a black car was waiting, just as Harold had promised. The driver held a sign with her name on it, opened the door for her, and drove her into Manhattan. The offices of Ashford and Sterling occupied the top 3 floors of a sleek glass tower overlooking Central Park. Maya stepped out of the elevator into a world of marble floors, modern art, and floor-to-ceiling windows. Harold Ashford met her in the lobby. He was in his 60s, tall and distinguished, with silver hair and kind eyes. Miss Richardson, he said warmly, shaking her hand, thank you for coming. Please, follow me. He led her into a private conference room where 3 other lawyers waited, along with a financial advisor and an estate planner. For the next 4 hours, they walked Maya through everything: the stocks, the real estate, the offshore accounts, the trusts, the properties in London, Dubai, and Cape Town that her mother had acquired over decades of quiet, strategic investments. Her mother hadn't just been wealthy, she'd been a financial genius, building an empire from the shadows while living like she had nothing. Your mother was very clear in her instructions, Harold explained. Everything is yours, with no restrictions. The trusts become active on your 30th birthday or upon her death, whichever came first. As of 2 weeks ago, you became one of the wealthiest individuals in the country. Maya sat back, overwhelmed. Why didn't she tell me? Because she wanted you to know who you were before you knew what you had, Harold said gently. She wanted you to build your own character, your own strength, and from what I can tell, she succeeded. By the time the meeting ended, Maya had signed dozens of documents, set up new accounts, and hired a team to manage her assets. She walked out of that building a different woman than the one who'd walked in. She checked into a suite at the Four Seasons, ordered room service, and sat by the window, staring out at the city lights. Her phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. We need to finalize the settlement. My lawyer says you're not responding. Let's just get this over with. Maya smiled coldly. She opened her laptop and drafted an email to her own lawyer. Proceed with the divorce as planned. I'm not contesting anything. He can have the apartment, the car, whatever he wants. I don't need any of it. She hit send and turned off her phone. Tomorrow, she'd fly back. Tomorrow, she'd start building the life her mother had prepared her for. But tonight, she'd let herself feel everything. The grief, the betrayal, the anger, and beneath it all, a spark of something new. Power. After her mom, who was a secret trillionaire, died, her husband divorced her to marry her best friend. Part 3. 6 months passed like a dream. Maya was only half convinced was real. She returned from New York, a different woman, though no one could see it yet. She moved out of the apartment she'd shared with Marcus and into a modest rental downtown. She dressed the same, drove the same 10-year-old Honda, and worked her same job as a graphic designer for a small marketing firm. To everyone who knew her, she was just Maya Richardson, the woman whose mother had died and whose husband had left her for her best friend. The object of pity and whispered gossip. But beneath that surface, everything had changed. Maya spent her evenings on video calls with Harold and his team, learning the intricacies of her empire. She studied market reports, property portfolios, and investment strategies. Her mother had built something extraordinary, and Maya was determined to understand every piece of it. She learned that her mother owned a controlling stake in 3 major corporations, including a tech company that was about to go public. She owned commercial properties in 12 states and residential buildings in 5 countries. She had art collections stored in climate-controlled vaults, vintage cars in secure garages, and a portfolio of rare books worth millions. And Maya controlled it all. She watched from a distance as Marcus and Shanice moved in together. They posted photos on social media, smiling and carefree, looking like the perfect couple. Maya saw the comments from mutual friends, the congratulations, the heart emojis. It should have hurt, but it didn't, because Maya knew something they didn't. Revenge wasn't about emotion. It was about timing. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday morning. Maya signed the papers at her lawyer's office, her expression neutral. Marcus got the apartment, his car, and half of their joint savings, which amounted to about $12,000. He thought he'd won. That same afternoon, Maya called Harold. I'm ready to make my first move, she said. What do you have in mind? Marcus works for Kimball & Associates, a mid-sized consulting firm. I want to know who owns it. There was a pause, the sound of typing. Looks like it's privately held. Majority shareholder is a venture capital firm called North Point Equity. Can we buy it? Harold's tone shifted, intrigued. North Point has been looking to sell their portfolio companies. It would take some negotiation, but yes, it's possible. Do it, quietly. I don't want my name on anything. Understood. What are you planning? Maya's voice was calm, cold. I'm going to teach him what it means to underestimate someone. 3 weeks later, the deal was done. Maya, through a series of shell companies and trusts, became the majority owner of Kimball & Associates. Marcus had no idea. She attended her first board meeting via video call, her face unseen, her voice disguised through a modulator. She listened as the executives discussed restructuring, cost-cutting measures, and personnel changes. When they finished, Maya spoke. I want a full review of all senior consultants, performance metrics, client feedback, billable hours. I want to know who's actually contributing and who's coasting. The CEO nodded. Of course, we'll have that ready within the week. A week later, the report came back. Marcus's numbers were mediocre at best. He billed fewer hours than his peers, had mixed client reviews, and spent more time networking than working. Maya made a note and moved on. She didn't fire him. Not yet. That would be too easy. Instead, she implemented a new policy. All senior consultants would be required to pitch for their projects. No more guaranteed clients. No more coasting on seniority. Marcus suddenly found himself competing for every account, and he wasn't very good at it. Within 2 months, his commissions dropped by 60%. He started staying late at the office, stressed, snapping at colleagues. Shanice posted less on social media. The photos of their perfect life slowed to a trickle. Maya watched from the shadows, a ghost in her own empire. But she wasn't done. Shanice worked as a regional manager for a boutique hotel chain called Le Monde Suites. Maya did her research. Le Monde was struggling. They'd overextended during the pandemic, opened too many locations, and now they were hemorrhaging cash. The parent company was looking for a buyer. Maya called Harold again. I want to buy Le Monde Suites. This time, Harold didn't hesitate. I'll start the negotiations. It took 2 months, but the deal closed. Maya became the owner of Le Monde Suites through another anonymous holding company. She fired the old management team and brought in her own people. The new CEO was a woman named Diane Porter, a hospitality veteran with a reputation for ruthless efficiency. I want a full audit, Maya told Diane during their first meeting. Every manager, every location. I want to know who's performing and who's not. Diane didn't ask questions. She just nodded. Consider it done. The audit revealed what Maya expected. Shanice's location was underperforming. Guest reviews were mediocre. Staff turnover was high. Shanice herself was more interested in Instagram photos than actual management. Diane called Shanice into her office on a Friday afternoon. Miss Williams, we need to discuss your performance. Shanice sat down, confident, smiling. Of course, what can I do for you? Your location is ranked 3rd from the bottom in our portfolio. Guest satisfaction is down. Revenue is flat. Staff morale is low. Can you explain this? Shanice's smile faltered. Well, we've had some challenges, but I'm not interested in excuses, Diane said calmly. I'm interested in results. And you're not delivering them. I've been working hard. Not hard enough. Effective immediately, you're being placed on a performance improvement plan. You have 60 days to turn this location around, or you'll be terminated. Shanice's face went pale. You can't do this. I just did. You'll receive the full details in writing by Monday. That's all. Shanice left the office in a daze. She sat in her car, hands shaking, and called Marcus. They're threatening to fire me, she said, her voice breaking. I don't understand. I've been doing everything right. Marcus, already stressed from his own work problems, sighed heavily. Babe, I can't deal with this right now. I've got my own issues. Just figure it out, okay? The line went dead. Shanice stared at her phone, tears streaming down her face. For the first time, she wondered if leaving Maya had been a mistake. Maya, meanwhile, was just getting started. She used her resources to track every aspect of their lives. Not through anything illegal, just public information, social media, and the access that came with owning their employers. She learned that Marcus had taken out a loan to buy an engagement ring for Shanice, a big one, expensive. He proposed last month, and Shanice had said yes. They were planning a wedding for the spring, a destination wedding in Cabo San Lucas. They'd sent out save the dates to all their friends. Maya looked at the save the date card someone had posted online. It featured a photo of Marcus and Shanice on a beach, laughing, holding hands, looking blissfully happy. She felt nothing. Well, almost nothing. There was a cold satisfaction, the kind that comes from knowing you hold all the cards and your opponent doesn't even know they're playing. She made another call to Harold. I want to start a scholarship fund, she said. In my mother's name. The Naomi Richardson Scholarship, for first-generation college students. I want it to be substantial, full ride. Room and board, books, everything. That's a wonderful idea, Harold said warmly. How much are you thinking? Start with 50 million. We can adjust from there. There was a brief pause. 50 million, yes, we can certainly do that. I'll have our foundation team draw up the paperwork. And Harold, I want the announcement to be public. I want my name attached to it. Are you ready for that? Once your name is out there. I'm ready. The announcement came on a Wednesday morning. Major news outlets picked it up immediately. Maya Richardson, daughter of the late Naomi Richardson, has established a $50 million scholarship fund for first-generation college students. Miss Richardson, recently identified as the sole heir to the Ashford fortune, plans to expand the program nationally over the next 5 years. The story included Maya's photo, a professional headshot she'd had taken the week before. She looked poised, elegant, powerful. Within hours, her phone exploded, reporters requesting interviews, old friends reaching out, distant relatives she'd never heard of suddenly wanting to connect. And 2 calls that didn't come, Marcus and Shanice. Maya knew they'd seen the news. Everyone had seen it. The story was everywhere. She imagined them in their apartment, staring at the headlines, realizing what they'd walked away from, realizing who she'd been all along. She didn't call them. She didn't gloat. She simply moved forward. That evening, she attended a charity gala downtown, her first public appearance since the announcement. She wore a midnight blue gown, simple but elegant, and entered the ballroom with her head high. People stared. Whispers rippled through the crowd. But Maya moved through it all with grace, shaking hands, accepting congratulations, acting like she'd been doing this her whole life. Halfway through the evening, she saw them, Marcus and Shanice, standing near the bar. They'd been invited weeks ago, back when they were just another young couple trying to network. They saw her at the same moment. The color drained from both their faces. Maya smiled and walked over. Marcus, Shanice? What a surprise. Marcus couldn't speak. Shanice's eyes were wide, darting between Maya and the crowd, as if looking for an escape. Congratulations on your engagement, Maya said pleasantly. I saw the announcement, spring wedding in Cabo, right? Shanice nodded weakly. Maya, I hope you have a wonderful time, Maya continued, her voice light, friendly. You deserve each other. The words hung in the air, their double meaning clear. Marcus finally found his voice. Maya, I didn't know. About your mother, about the money, I had no idea. Of course you didn't, Maya said softly. That was the point. If I had known, you would have what? Maya's voice hardened slightly. Stayed? Pretended to love me for my bank account, instead of leaving me for my best friend? He had no answer. Maya turned to Shanice. And you, how's work going? Shanice's face crumpled. Maya, please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. But you did, Maya said simply. You both did. And you know what I learned? Hurt people don't always break. Sometimes they build. Sometimes they become something their betrayers can't even imagine. She stepped back, her expression neutral. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I certainly will. She walked away, leaving them standing there, frozen. The next morning, Shanice was fired. The 60-day improvement plan had been a formality. Diane had already made the decision. Shanice's severance was the legal minimum, and her professional reputation was in tatters. Marcus lost his biggest client the same week. The client didn't explain why they were leaving. They just left. Within a month, he was laid off as part of restructuring. His severance was slightly better than Shanice's, but not by much. Their engagement photo, once plastered everywhere, disappeared from social media. The save the dates for the wedding went out, but the wedding was quietly postponed, then canceled. Maya heard about it all through the grapevine. She didn't interfere. She didn't need to. She'd set things in motion and stepped back. Gravity did the rest. 6 months after the gala, Maya stood at the window of her new penthouse apartment, overlooking the city. She'd finally moved out of the modest rental and into something that reflected her reality. Her phone rang. It was Harold. Just wanted to check in, he said. How are you doing? I'm good, Maya said. And she meant it. Really good. Your mother would be proud of you. Maya's throat tightened. You think so? I know so. She wanted you to be strong, to be smart, to be someone who couldn't be broken. And that's exactly who you've become. After they hung up, Maya sat down at her desk and opened her laptop. She had work to do. The scholarship fund needed attention. Her companies needed strategic direction. There were properties to review, investments to analyze, and a future to build. She thought about Marcus and Shanice sometimes, but not often. They'd made their choices, they'd revealed who they really were, and in doing so, they'd freed her to become who she was always meant to be. The woman her mother had raised, the woman who could survive anything. As she worked, her mother's letter sat in a frame on her desk, the final lines visible. When the storm comes, you stand. You are stronger than you know. Maya had stood, and she was still standing. The storm had come and gone, and she'd emerged not just intact, but transformed. She picked up her phone and sent one final text to Harold. Let's expand the scholarship fund, double the endowment. I want to help more students who understand what it means to start with nothing and build something real. His response came quickly. Consider it done. Maya set the phone down and looked out at the city again. Somewhere out there, Marcus and Shanice were struggling, learning hard lessons about betrayal and consequences. But Maya wasn't thinking about them anymore. She was thinking about tomorrow, about the students whose lives would change because of her mother's legacy, about the businesses she would build, the impact she would make, the woman she would continue to become. Her mother had given her more than money. She'd given her wisdom, strength, purpose. And Maya wasn't going to waste a single bit of it. The sun set over the skyline, painting everything in shades of gold and amber. Maya sat in her chair, a cup of tea cooling on the desk beside her, and smiled. Not because she'd won, but because she'd survived. And sometimes, that's the greatest victory of all. What would you have done in Maya's situation? Would you have forgiven them or made them pay? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you love this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible, true-to-life stories. See you in the next one.